I'm really not used to people combusting all over me. My name is Matthew Crow.
And I don't need no rich dick. My name is Shahir Dow.
And this is the only podcast about movies, specifically the film Ready or Not 2: Here I Come.
Okay, there it is. And by the way, I just want to add an addendum. I'm very poor, so I do need rich dick.
Okay, I was going to say...
If anyone is available, if there's any rich dick available, email us at onlymopodcast@gmail.com.
We could actually use it.
Yeah, we would happily take rich dick right now.
Preferably 6'5" trust fund blue eyes, but I don't know if beggars can't be choosers.
That's true. I mean, yeah, that's true. You know, it's funny. I was on set, not this week, I think a week ago. And I was talking to someone who, I won't name names here, but we were just talking about dating on the internet. And I mentioned to them the fact that I, haven't dated for like 20 years or what have you at this point, more than that.
Sure.
And I was specifically referring to the movie The Materialist and, kind of talking about the revelations that were in that movie. But they introduced me to a new term, which I hadn't heard before, which was basement dick. And
interesting. I think I can infer what that means.
What do you think basement dick is?
I think basement dick is when you just sleep with someone just for the act of sleeping with someone and not for like any or it could be either just like whatever you got available to you, or they're just really good at sex, but they're poor as hell.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
It is. Well, basement dick in generally, from this person's point of view, was like someone who lives in the basement of their parents' house.
That's really,
yeah. But they say sometimes you need basement dick, and again, I'm not gonna get into specifics here, but because basement dick is usually quite big, and just worth the effort.
Sure. I mean, who am I to argue with these scholars?
Yeah, exactly. We're off to a flying start this week. It's actually kind of great because for the last few weeks we sort of ramp up to our best of 2025, which has been released, and you can hear that now as well as our Project Hail Mary episode. But in terms of getting the movies out, we're always trying to like track down these very specific movies, often very serious movies, because we want to get them in for 2025 before our 2025 episode. And now all of that is gone.
Yeah.
All that pressure is done.
We can just see the movies now.
We just go to the movies. I was like, what's playing? Ready or Not 2? That sounds like a fine time.
I was the one too that pushed very hard for it because I absolutely love the first one. I was very curious to see if they could pull off a sequel 7 years later.
What's funny is I recall liking the first one, but I haven't done this in a while. It's like I went back and listened to our episode.
Yeah.
Just be like, oh, what did I actually think about it? Because I have not watched the first one since.
Oh, okay. I have.
Yeah. And I think because I listened to that episode and I was like, oh, I think we both but it actually sounded like I was really the one like championing the movie. Oh,
I don't know.
You were like, I really like this, but then my memory now is that I think you watched it a few more times since then, and every time you watched it, you were like, I love this movie.
I bought it on Blu-ray the second it came out, and I've watched it probably like 5 times, 6 times. I think it is a near perfect horror action comedy.
Yeah.
And it's the horror action comedy is sort of I think it might be my favorite mashup of genres. It's what I strove for when I made, back in high school, that only feature that I've ever made. When I made Skulls Across New York, it's an action horror comedy.
There you go.
And so I don't know. It's just something that's near and dear to my heart. So when I saw that they were doing a sequel, again, let me remind the listeners, I believe Ready or Not 1 came out in 2019, but like pre-COVID 2019.
Okay.
And it's crazy to me that now 7 years later, a movie that I love that it takes place. I love it when it does this literally like right at the end of the last. It's very John Wick.
Yeah. And luckily Samara Weaving has not aged a day.
Yeah.
You know what I didn't think that we put there was that Samara Weaving is Hugo Weaving's niece.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
It was. I was watching an interview with her this week. She was like, I bet you're not going to realize this, but what is his name on Lord of the Rings? What is his character's name?
Oh, Elf guy.
The Elf guy. He was like, the Elf guy is my uncle.
It's so funny. Or Agent Smith. I just bought a Blu-ray, or sorry, a 4K player, and Jamie and I have been rewatching the 4K extended editions of Lord of the Rings, and it in Dolby Vision slaps.
I can't wait for you to get to The Hobbit and watch that in 60.
Nope.
Is it 60 frames?
40? I think it's 48.
48.
Isn't it 48? It was just double. It was just double 24.
And it looks terrible.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I hate to say, I want to be more nuanced than that because there is a technical innovation that is going on with 48 frames per second or 60 frames per second or a high frame rate. But honestly, and I think I've said this before on the podcast, never have I watched the movie and gone, man, I wish this was in 48 frames per second or in a high frame rate.
I was just having a conversation. This is going to be the most pretentious YouTuber thing I could ever say, but I was just having a conversation with Jason from Not Just Bikes when we were both in London. And we were talking about frame rates, about different stuff, about what he shoots his stuff in and why he shoots his stuff in certain ways. And I don't want to blow up his spot on the sort of reasoning of that, but it's for his frame rates and things are chosen not necessarily for he wants people to feel like they're in the spaces that he's in. He doesn't want it to feel cinematic. He wants it to feel like real life.
Right.
And
he doesn't want it to feel cinematic. He wants it to look crap.
No, not crap. But do you know what I mean? Like it's not about making something look like a movie. It's about making it feel like you're standing on the street corner that he's filming on.
Right.
And then we got into a conversation about he hadn't seen it. We were talking about like high frame rates, and I got into the inevitable conversation about Gemini Man.
Yeah.
And how did we see that together?
No. I don't think because I remember taking my father.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, but I remember there was only one shot in that movie that blew my fucking mind, and it was a wide shot of a train going.
Oh, okay.
And it was the only time in a movie at that I forget even what the frame rate is, like 240 or something.
It's
stupid.
120.
120. But like my brain was just like, you're looking out a window and that train is the wrong size. Do you know what I mean? And then it snaps to a close up of Will Smith and you're like, ugh, and it hurts. Not because it's Will Smith, just because the frame rate is bad when close ups.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It was just a very interesting conversation about like the purposefulness of frame rates. And The Hobbit, I feel like was more of a technical exercise, at least in my opinion, because I don't know anyone who went and watched that movie in that format that was this is it was like, this is the shit.
Yeah. No. I definitely didn't.
I watched it in the format. I just didn't like it.
I actually finished it for the first time recently because I hadn't seen the third one.
I've never seen the third one. It's like a mystery to me.
But my son was watching them, and so we watched like all three of those.
Is it worth it?
No, the third one is dire. It is like, it's just, you watch it and you go, all the magic that was in the Lord of the Rings, even, like I'm sort of mixed on the original trilogy, but
for real?
Yeah, I am mixed on.
What are you mixed on?
I feel like I'm not the target audience for that movie.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. I rewatch them, and every time I rewatch them, I'm like, I'm not gonna like this as much. And then I'm like, yes. Gondor calls for aid.
I think you should watch The Hobbit because it's just such a fascinating thing where there's a moment where what is the elf, the Orlando Bloom elf?
Oh, a Legolas?
Legolas like does like a video game jump between platforms, which is
that when he surfs down the elephant's trunk?
No, that's in the third. That's in Return of the King. Imagine that.
Wait, Legolas shows up in The Hobbit?
Yeah, he does. And
why?
And he just, he does the elephant slide thing dialed up to 11, basically every turn he can get right now. And there's moments where you're just going, like, there's the sort of like Office moment where you just turn going, what are we doing here? Like, well, what is this?
I really like the elves in the original. There's only one or two moments in the original Lord of the Rings trilogy where it seems ridiculous, but like normally it's just like regular elf stuff. Like he can walk on snow. Because elves are light and they can just walk on snow. They're one with nature. Actually, it's appropriate that we're talking about Lord of the Rings because we got Frodo Baggins himself.
And Hugo Weaving's niece.
Yeah, so it's kind of in Ready or Not 2,
and
here I go.
They're chasing a ring in this movie.
They are chasing a ring.
And who is the beholder of that ring? Who is the caretaker of that ring?
The Dark Lord.
The Dark Lord, Frodo, in this movie is
he's the keeper of the ring.
Yeah,
wow. Yeah. Whether we're talking about Sauron or Mr. LaBelle, it's fucking Elijah Wood, baby.
He's always there. I just want to shout out one quick email before we move on into the movie, and this is from Jacob, who we haven't heard from in a while, who wrote us this lovely long email.
Hi, Jacob.
Detailing how his life had changed over the last, I think, probably 8 or 9 years since we've heard from him.
Our bones are dust.
But we are happy to hear from him. The TLDR of this, because I'm not going to read this whole thing out, was that he gladly listened to our top 10 episode and was really hurt by the fact that 4 of his top 10 movies were not only not mentioned by us, but in that monster episode
Sure.
with like hundreds, well, what feels like hundreds of people, these movies were also not mentioned by anyone. To do Jacob some justice here, I am going to read the top 20 from his list.
Okay.
And apologies, I'm reading this off a letterboxed image here, so I don't have the director's names in front of me, though some will be more apparent than others.
Titles will be fine.
Titles will be fine. So number 20, we're starting with Lurker, which is I have heard great things of. 19 is Mickey 17, which we did on the podcast. 18, If I Had Legs, I Would Kick You. Dead Diamond, which is a movie I have not... No, Reflections of the Dead Diamond, which is a movie I've not heard anything about. That was number 17. Number 16 is Good Boy, a movie I think you would enjoy, Matt.
Yep.
Number 15, Eddington. Number 14, the other Steven Soderbergh film of the year, Presence. Number 13, the controversial film Magazine Dreams. Number 12, A Little Prayer. Number 11, The Monkey. Number 10, a movie that did get mentioned often, Eternity. Number 9, Sentimental Value. Number 8, The Ugly Stepsister. Again, another movie I am unaware of.
I had heard that one.
Number 7, Weapons. Number 6, Train Dreams. Number 5, Splitsville, which I've heard such great things about. Number 4, Bring Her Back, which is the Filippo brothers who did Talk to Me the last time. And number 3, Twinless. Number 2, Mighty Supreme. And number 1 was Begonia.
There we go.
Jacob, thank you again for emailing us in. We love to hear from you. Thank you again for taking the time to say hi to us and to catch up on that parasocial relationship that we've been fostering for so long now.
Yes, thank you very much. And other dear listeners, if you'd like to foster that parasocial relationship, by all means, please email us in at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. Whether you've done it a million times, you did it in the past and dropped off, or it's your first time yelling at us over the internet, please feel free to do so, or message us on Instagram or Blue Sky. We're there too.
Yeah, and just to say, we're not going anywhere. We're still here.
We're still here.
We're still here. If
Much to the chagrin of everything.
To our partners, to our financiers, of whom we have none, to everyone that is involved in this humble little project called The Only Podcast About Movies, we are not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Matt, could you tell us what Ready or Not, Here I Come, which could also be another name for our podcast, is about?
That I can, because it is due to the fact that the illustrious folks over at the Internet Movie Database tell us what it is all the time, and they say Ready or Not 2, Here I Come is, quote, after surviving one deadly game, Grace and her sister Faith must now outrun 4 rival families competing for a powerful throne. Winner takes all. I also love that the movie, I'm just going to jump right in. There's a moment because their names are Grace and Faith.
Yeah.
And the movie just instantly mocks the names, which I love. I think it's just like fucking Irish Catholics or something like that. And it's, I don't know. And that to me truly is a microcosm of the tonality and the blade dance this movie attempts to do.
Attempts, I think, is going to do a lot of work in that conversation.
Well, would you like to go first? Would you like me to go first?
I'm here for hearing what your opinion is.
So, that sounded so convincing.
Yeah.
As I said before, huge fan of the first one. And I was worried. I was worried about going into this one and not liking it as much. And spoiler alert, I don't like it as much, but I still fucking love this movie.
Really?
It was a wall-to-wall good time for me. There was only 1 or 2 micro moments that bucked me off the train, and instantly I was like, wait, how do I get back on? Oh, I just got to run over here? Neat. I loved nearly everything about this. I think you know what? Because I have a feeling you're going to like it less than me. And then I'll sort of try, in my opinion, not to rebut, just to sort of say the things I liked if there are things that maybe you didn't. Here's something I think that the movie makes it a intrinsically weaker film than the first one. And that is, I don't think this is a spoiler because it's a direct sequel 24 hours later to the last one, but spoiler for 2019's Ready or Not. If you're listening to this and you haven't watched that, I don't know how to help you with your life. But the ending, or the whole point of Ready or Not, there's a sort of interesting push and pull over whether the family that's trying to murder Grace is either crazy or actually made a pact with the devil, and or if they did, does it actually have any ramifications in the real world?
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, when people start exploding, you realize that it is in fact real, and you actually see a shadow of Mr. LaBelle, and it's a perfect, like, holy shit, it's a perfect surprise moment. Do you know what I mean? So I love that about it. And here, obviously, going in, Grace's character and the characters that are chasing her throughout this movie know that this is very much real. In fact, Faith is the only character in this film that doesn't intrinsically know that this is actually a real legitimate threat and what will happen. And I was hoping that they would play with that a bit more. There's really only one moment where one of the various explosions actually like shocked me. Mm-hmm. And that was in the very beginning when one of the families warring for the throne here, because Grace won the last time and now they have to basically do a double or nothing for the throne. From these evil families, when he attacks him, the coked up guy attacks him in the hotel, in the hospital, and essentially as he's about to murder her because the game did not begin, Mr. LaBelle explodes him. Yeah, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting mechanic.
That was Kevin Durand, from the Planet of the Apes series as well.
And so I intrinsically there's not what I didn't really want, even though like. What I wanted was more mystery about the cult, and everything in the cult here did feel very like, oh, well, it's a cult and it works like this. And this is whatever. And you're like, okay. So like, I like
very matter of fact.
I like the rules lawyering of it. And the matter of factness is played for comedy. Many times I think works. I just don't think it's as effective as a narrative device as the mystery of not knowing. Yeah. That was something that I think was like the special sauce for Ready or Not.
It created a tension as you're watching it. In the first film. I did actually rewatch the first one in preparation for this episode. But that was the first time I'd seen it since 2019. And I was like, oh, there is a kind of a great tension here about like, why is this family so crazy? And also their incompetence is kind of really fun to watch as well, given that they have this like really strong belief system. But to jump into my thoughts about the film is that, you know, I kind of did feel like this was taking a cue from John Wick in some way, which was like revealing how the inner workings of the what is it called in John Wick? The high society, the high table kind of like operates, and there's this larger narrative at play that we kind of only got hints at the first film. Unfortunately, for me, those hints or the expansion of the world were not really that interesting. It was kind of like, oh, this is the rule, and we're just going to play another game of hide and seek, and there are just different players now who come from different, you know, families, and essentially you're going to do the same thing, but the stakes are higher, and we're just going to, you know, just keep ramping it up. But it's not like there was any new innovation or any new mechanism to this that was like, oh, this is a new thing. It was like they're actually playing hide and seek again. The kind of parameters of what happens is kind of the same.
There's a few additions, and I thought it was kind of funny, and it offered more moments of humor when, like, if one of the, like, you could bring as many family members to this as you wanted, and the eldest had to go, or the head of the house, but if they die, the next in line could go out onto the field. So there was some funny moments.
But it didn't really add to much, did
it? It allowed for more characters, which I think does add to specifically the comedy of it.
Well, so this is my feeling, is like, it felt like this was more movie, but not bitter movie. You know what I mean? Like there was this like more of it. And I was kind of like watching and going, so for the first, I think I want to say hour of the movie, I was kind of like, well, there's just more of this. Towards the back end of the movie, when they got into how Grace was going to renegotiate her way out of the scenario, which is something she has to do in the first movie, then I was like, okay, I'm a little more interested in like this maneuvering, and particularly the final act. I was like, oh, it kind of did go somewhere here that I thought was okay. But I didn't think, you know, like to sort of use the other phrase, with the juice was worth the squeeze kind of thing. And I didn't really get a lot out of this beyond, it was like, well, there's more of it.
It's funny. So I agree and I disagree, and I'm trying to figure out the ways through it. And I think one of the things that I really liked about this movie, because I agree, it's more movie, but not necessarily better movie. But in that more movie structure, something I really appreciated was actually the mechanical narrative and the way information was revealed. It all felt like, because there's so many characters and so much going on, while I don't think that the cult and the world that it built is that interesting, it is consistent and it all works. And it's a complex little machine doing it, which again is it's a kind of a backhanded compliment, right? I'm like, wow, your crazy narrative machine that you built works very well and is clear and the rules are defined and never do you break it, but it's also not that interesting.
It's not that interesting. And I felt the expansion of the mythology didn't really, like, I walked out of this going, you're going to hate the phrase here, but because I've used it before and I know it's caused arguments here.
Let's go.
Is if I was recommending Ready or Not to people, I 100% would say, you're really going to enjoy the first one. The second one is completely unnecessary. You don't need to watch the second one. Like I would literally go, the second one is just more of the first and it's less interesting.
I mean, I would then just rebuttal with no film is necessary.
Right. And,
we've done this before.
Yeah.
But like, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think
there are moments in the second one that I do like as well. But I
get what you're saying.
It just kind of like, I was like, well, that's just more of the movie.
But I think what got
and
me
less, and at the same time, less of the experience.
But what I actually kind of liked about it was that it was more of the movie. Sure. Like I was here for the ride. I liked all the new characters. I thought the eccentric families were fun. I liked all the actors they tapped to do it. Yeah. I thought that Sarah Michelle Gellar and Sean Houtsey, he's been on The Pit.
The Pit, yeah. But also like throwing in David Cronenberg right at the beginning.
Love it.
And so the last I don't have IMDb in front of me.
Yeah, what are you looking for?
Or what movies David Cronenberg is acting for? I know he did a movie called Last Night, which was directed by a guy named Don McKellar, who was also written a movie that we did on this podcast. I just can't recall what it was at the top of my head. But Last Night is this fantastic movie about the last night on Earth. David Cronenberg is one of the last people on Earth. It's got an incredible scene in it, and he's fantastic. I'm trying to think what else Cronenberg turns up for in order to act in a movie.
He's on Star Trek Discovery for 10 episodes.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
Good for him. I know his son is making movies right now, and he has a movie called Shrouds, which came out this year. Cronenberg is, of course, one of the stalwarts of modern body horror. One of the greats. But I was like, I piqued my interest into why he would do this movie. And if you're saying he's doing Star Trek, he's obviously doing a bunch of fun. He's having fun, but like, he was in that Don McKellar film Last Night. I think because it was a Canadian film by an interesting young filmmaker, and it was like he had a really interesting role in that movie. I was like, David Cronenberg's here. What are we here for? And then I was like, I don't know what he's here. I don't know what was exciting to him other than actually, and I don't want to speak for his personal interests or what have you. Other than I thought the first movie was a lot of fun. And this was like an opportunity to be part of that.
Sure. That could be enough.
But the end result was, I was like, oh man, yeah, David Cronenberg, which is like, to me, a big signal. And it's not a signal that I think is used anyway here.
I think it's just a fun cameo.
I don't know. A fun cameo. But like,
I think it's interesting when looking at a film like Ready or Not 2: Here I Come, because intrinsically I know that I can tear it apart, when holding it up to, I think, a top tier echelon action horror comedy like the first one. Like, I think it's doable. It obviously is. I think where you're going to get pushback from me on it is I have no interest in tearing it down.
Right, that's fine, yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I have to just explain how trepidatious I was going into it and how much joy I was experiencing just throughout the entire thing. I will go into sort of the reasons why I did experience that beyond the problems that it has.
It's also like, when I watched it, I kind of felt, I was like really worried because we're coming up to this point of the year, the sort of March, after post-Oscar season where like movies are just sort of coming out and we see there's another movie They Will Kill You with Zazie Beetz.
Yeah.
Right now.
About a satanic cult that's
yeah,
out doing a thing.
Yeah, it looks very, very similar as well. And I was just like, oh, this is just that time of the year where we're just like pushing these movies out.
Also, launching Ready or Not 2, Here I Come around the same time as Project Hail Mary probably wasn't the best move.
Yeah,
but
they're just such different, tapping into such different audiences to it. By the way, like maybe my feeling about the movie also was like iterated by the fact that there was a guy sitting in front of me in the theater, and he was on a dating app during the movie.
Jesus Christ.
And it was just like, he was really sick and screening the movie in the theater. And there was a part of me that was like, I want to say something, but at the other time I was like, I was just fascinated to watch him kind of like literally be going through like his dating app. And I was like, I was genuinely curious about like who he was choosing to message. And
so
like
your attention was divided.
My attention was divided by the fact that there was a person who in front of me whose like attention was clearly sick and screening the movie. And I was like, not mad at that for some reason. Like, I don't think it's good theater etiquette, but I was like, I also kind of like am sort of in the same headspace with this movie in terms of like, I was not really that engaged with it. But I maybe just to like start this sort of back and forth that we may get into, like some of the things that I really like about the movie.
Sure.
I think Samara Weaving is terrific as a, like you sort of like limit it by saying, the scream queen in the movie, but she is really like dialed up here. And I think she's bringing a huge amount of energy and charisma to the role. I went back and watched, the original, and she's terrific in it. And I think she's like here to like, she's really game for whatever this movie is doing. And so I really, really like that about it. There is a fight sequence in the middle of the movie, which involves two warring brides.
Yep.
And that was the first one that kind of captured the sort of absurdity of the first movie in a way that kind of really worked for me. Both of them get sprayed in the face with mace, and it turns into this sort of like really pretty funny. We can't see each other, but we're both going to try and kill each other while Bonnie Taylor's Total Eclipse of the Heart is playing. I think it's Total Eclipse of the Heart. I think so. Yeah. And so I thought that was really, really fun. And then as I mentioned before, there is like a mechanism that comes into play towards the back end of the movie, which is, an alternative out clause for how Grace can maneuver her way out of this, which he puts to good use, and it reveals a kind of like hollowness about the people that are like trying to murder her here. But they were already hollow, caricatures from the very, very get-go of the movie. So it wasn't like that was anything major revealing or anything about it. But I enjoyed that part of it. That was about it. And none of those sort of three factors for me make this, like more than what we got from the first film. I think the first film, like you said, is a really great encapsulation of a single idea. It's told really well. It's very effective about doing what it's trying to do. And I got to the second one. I go, I know why you made this is because you made a ton of money off that first one, and you felt the need to come back. And that's totally, what we should be doing here.
I don't know if Ready or Not 1 made a ton of money.
I think it made money. And then getting to the second one, I was just like, but I really feel like this didn't add anything to that, it didn't, if you're trying to build out the mythology, I don't feel that interested in what the mythology was. And if you're trying to expand the story, then it's not doing that for me either.
The opening wasn't terribly great, but the word of mouth got it there eventually. It's a roughly a $6 million movie, the original, and it made 28 domestic and 28 international. So that's enough money to go back.
Yeah.
I think though, I honestly think that
but I wasn't like offended by the movie. No. I wasn't like mad at the movie.
Bettolini, Oplin, and Tyler Gillett, I think, really like doing the first one too. And also like another reason why I think
between this,
and a couple, and they did Annabelle and something else. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But or is it Annabelle or is it, sorry, they've done a couple different horror films. Abigail. Sorry, it was the ballerina vampire one. Sorry, not Annabelle. Abigail. Why did I not get that right?
Yeah.
It does feel like everyone, and I've watched a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and there's a glut of behind the scenes stuff for this one, and normally that means that the vibe on set was good.
I think everyone had fun making it.
And so that's another reason to do it. And I go back to obviously most times, anytime a sequel comes out that's not planned for it, it's to redo the well and make money off it. That's the business.
Yeah.
But I wonder, like, this is one of those films that, while I will fully say that I do not think it as good as the first one, but I do really love this. This is an interesting question, and maybe everyone's mileage may vary with it. Email us at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com, but I'll say my opinion. I'd like to hear share. Does, for a sequel to be successful, does it have to be better than the original?
It doesn't have to be better than the original, but it has to, in my opinion, in order to be successful, has to give us something other than what the original gave us.
See, and this is where I think,
and I don't feel like I got that. Yeah.
So I don't think this movie gives us something new or innovative in that way, but what it does for me is gives me the same good time vibes as the first one. And I guess the new thing is not like a new innovative thing. It's, just more story that I don't know yet.
Right.
And that to me is, for this franchise, like, after watching it anyway, kind of more than enough. Like, I could think of, like, I mean, it's so silly to say, like, would I like it if it found a way to do the thing the first one did, but even better? Sure.
Yeah.
but like, I almost don't care, like, because I have the first one and I just like that this is almost like, I think I coined, it's, you know what? I coined this when Jamie and I left the theater. It's like when you go out to eat and you like order 2 desserts instead of 1, but somehow you don't have a stomachache. Did you need that second dessert? No, and it should have hurt your tum-tum, but it didn't. And so you're like, oh, all right. Like, it has this weird vibe of sort of like being something you really like that also doesn't hurt you, in the sense that maybe going back to the well of something might. I don't know. Like, I
think, okay. So I think that's an interesting analogy.
I'm also just gluttonous.
Yeah. I might try a couple of others here on the fly. The first one I'm going to mention is, there's this famous clip of Jerry Seinfeld talking about the fact, I think he's mentioned this a couple of times, which was like, he was like, The Hangover was such a perfect one-shot comedy that really delivered on its premise and was excellent. And then they went and made 2 and 3, which did nothing for it, and in his mind diminished what was so great about the first one.
And I do think 2 and 3 do diminish the first one. I don't think this one diminishes the first one.
So that's one analogy I'll try here. And then the pivot that I would do, which would relate to video games here, is that Ready or Not 2 to me feels like when EA Sports releases like NBA 2K 25 and then 26 and 27, and they're just doing like minor iterations to get you back in the theater or to get you to buy the game again. And like occasionally when they do 2K, 20 to 21 to 23, and then maybe at 24 you get some sort of innovation that kind of like propels it forward. But like between 21 and 24 you got 23, 21, 22, 23.
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
and you're just like, oh, cool. I could have lived with just 21 and it was fine. You know what I mean? Or whatever it was. And that's kind of more the analogy I would use here, which is like,
but you're using, I didn't think it's fine for you to use that because you didn't enjoy it as much as I did. I'm describing it as something that I did enjoy.
Yeah,
although on the flip side of that analogy about the sports games, there's a reason why those games are some of the most statistically like surefire monetary hits, because everyone buys it.
Yeah.
So people must like it. It must be like a dessert that they keep getting, or else they'd stop. Like, and I'm not saying that, but maybe what I'm saying is what people, sometimes it's okay, in my opinion. Innovation does not have to be like, or something so brand and shiny new doesn't necessarily need to be the experience that I want to buy. Like, I can also have a good time having more of a thing I like.
Sure. And I'm not going to diminish that, like you enjoyed just your time in the movie and then what have you. I think I'm talking about it from the point of view of like, how do we discuss this to our audience? In terms of like, well, I think the first one was really great. We talked about how great the first one is. I don't have anything in this second one to say, you got to go see this, or if you have a choice between watching the first, if you haven't watched either of them, if you had a choice between these two, or
of course you shouldn't watch the second one.
I would just, but I would say just watch the first one. Like, don't
I would
bother with the second one.
But here's the thing. I would even posit if you liked the first one, you should watch the second one.
Really?
Just because it doesn't hit the heights of the first one doesn't make it not worth someone's time. I think there will be people like you that did not connect with it. Sure. Yeah. But I think the gamble is worth it because there's enough there. Here's something interesting that I think is again, there's nothing like, whoa, like the ending of the first one that this has.
Yeah. Like the explosions of people is not a surprise.
No, not at all.
It happens right away. And
they use it for comedic effect instead of shocking effect now because that's what they can do. But I think just sorry to jump in there, but like the other thing is that reveal unearthed some tension that was in that first movie that is not apparent here. There's no tension to what is going on. There's no additional mystery.
Yeah.
The mystery is, how is Grace and Faith going to get out of this? Yeah. That's the mystery. Before it was, how's Grace going to get out of this? Also, is the devil real?
Yeah.
And that's a double whammy that you don't get here.
Yeah.
The thing that I really like about I'll even sort of dive a little deeper than I think a lot of folks have into this, but I think the thing that I really like about the dichotomy of these two films is the first film is about essentially how strong Grace is kind of alone.
Mm-hmm.
And she even says, I know they retcon this for the movie, but like she doesn't have any family and that's why she's joining this family. And then there's the whole thing about that. And so she is at odds with everyone.
Yeah.
And here it's interesting to see her strength comes from literally fighting her way away from everybody else.
Yeah.
In this film, it feels like a lot of her strength comes from actually like having a character that she gives a shit about, because other than the husband in the first one, which turns around, we don't have to go into the timeline of it.
Yeah.
But like, this ups the stakes of how will she, we've seen her be able to be on her own and go fuck shit up and not give a fuck. How does she now function in this world when she also has someone in it that she like truly cares about and has an outside tension with? Is that as interesting as is the devil real? No, but it is something different that lets us see this sort of character in a different light. And it was enough to like, I found the scenes with Catherine Newton and Samara Weaving where they're just talking some of the most fun and just engaging sort of banter sessions. I also really enjoy how, and again, you don't see a lot of this in these kind of films. It's all heightened, obviously. It's action and it's sort of a bit over the top theatrical, but also the way that it's cut and the way that the fight choreography works, it also feels very visceral and kind of real. Like in that scene when we were talking, and I actually want to go back and rewatch the scene with the two brides fighting intercut with Faith and Titus fighting in the hallway.
Yeah,
because those are two tonally very different scenes. One is played for slapstick and one is a brutalization of a small girl by an adult man.
Yeah.
And somehow the intercutting of that didn't, for me, fuck up the vibe of either, when in my edit brain, I'm like, no, you'd never do that.
I think there's something to the idea that this film had at the core of it, which is that Grace and Faith and Titus and Ursula have some common ground as siblings, vying for their position within the family or something like that, or the sense of abandonment. I could feel like as they were discussing that sense of abandonment, that there was something trying to be connected there between these two stories. Towards the end, Ursula and Titus have like a kind of like, loosely Shakespearean kind of like betrayal, predictable betrayal, but something in that sense of like who is best suited to the throne.
We'll get into full spoilers by now, just because we're through and through. If we
but I never found that it really got to any point that was compelling or surprising or interesting. And I think it's not a surprise in the first film, but the tension that was sort of like really well suited to what the sort of the horror mechanism in that movie was that here is an orphan for all intents and purposes that we don't know, who is terrified about getting married into this new family. And it turns out this new family wants to murder her. And that's like an interesting tension because she is searching for family and there's a family who wants to, and within that, like, I think that's right because it like plays directly into her anxieties, like she has to deal with a new mother-in-law in general, but also what happens if that mother-in-law happens to have a crossbow, and that's fun. In this particular situation, Faith is along for the ride, and there is some additional beats that have been retconned into this orphan story here that kind of do feel like they're sort of touching at something interesting, but the movie never really pays it off in any way that I find like, makes me go, oh my God, she had a sister. And like, that really tells us a little bit more about this story, or that tells us a little bit more about this, or that tension between her and her sister is really being explored through this horror mechanism that's at play here, which is this larger family dynamic that is happening. It's like, it's loosey-goosey. And
I think the dynamic around Faith that I really liked was that in this case, the first one, she was being hunted by her new family. Here is a member of her real family that actually doesn't want anything to do with her. So it's like kind of a double flipperoo. And the movie could have focused on that a little more, I'm sure, but I just really enjoyed seeing these characters together. I really appreciated the Faith character specifically because she was more horrified in the beginning, obviously, because it was their first rodeo going around. Yeah. Although the moment when they kill Nadim Umar Kitab plays Ravage, I believe, the guy with the mask.
Okay.
And they put him in the industrial washing machine. And I love it because she says like a snappy line or something like time to get clean or whatever the fuck. And then they turn it on, but then they both just scream because how horrific that death is.
Yeah.
And like, there's a lot of sort of like, it's odd to say grounding moments. There's tons of supernatural nonsensory bullshit throughout all these movies. But I really appreciated that they still oftentimes were actually that everyone was like the families being bad at what they're doing is interesting because it makes sense in the world because not every rich family would be like good at hunting people. Even like they'd be complacent. They'd be whatever.
Nister's family was kind of prepared for this.
Well, no, he wasn't. He didn't train. Like he had the rifle, but
but the kids, like his son who came out with like the double machine gun was ready to go.
Well, it is funny. So it's him and then his daughter who was originally. I love this. It was such a silly retcon of like she was the girlfriend before Grace.
Yeah.
But then when the kid comes out, Juan Pablo Romero, pardon. His character's name is Felipe. That was one of the only moments in the movie, in a ridiculous movie, that I felt was too over the top because every other firearm, gun, kill, everything had a sense of like weight and or horror to it. And a little kid coming out with two auto pistols that wasn't blasting his arms off. He just like held his arms out fine.
Yeah.
Was just like, in my head, I was like, okay. Like I know it was played for comedy, but at the same time, there's a lot of stuff played for comedy in this movie that also feels weighty and lived in. And that was the moment
like that actually kind of did lose me. It happens fairly early on, is the fact that Grace puts on the dress again. Like, I was like, the thing I liked about the first movie was that she's wearing this beautiful dress and it slowly transforms and absorbs this like blood, and it becomes this like almost uniform in a way. Like in a way, it becomes this sort of interesting thematic reminder about the journey that she's going through, kind of like Die Hard, which is what I described. And then in this one, like as she's being attacked with, like hospital gowns on, she stops to like momentarily put on that dress again. And I was like,
I'm going to do something unconventional.
Yeah.
Because Jamie had an incredible take on this very moment that if I try to say it, okay, I'm going to butcher it. So give me 2 seconds and I'm going to run out and she's going to tell you why that moment worked for her particularly.
Okay.
Because I'm going to butcher it. Give me 2 seconds.
Okay.
Jamie, you're here.
Oh, good. First of all, it's crazy, Matt, that you haven't seen The Hobbit. Second of all, to counter the point that Shahir said he made that I didn't technically hear, but he explained to me, point that she has to put the dress back on. It slingshots back to a really good moment in the first movie when she alters the dress. She tears the hem short and she puts on her running shoes and she looks at herself in the mirror with the, the ammo across her chest. And she doesn't say like,
She goes, holy
it's
shit.
pounding time.
Yeah.
She says, oh my God.
Yeah.
Because she hates this.
Mhm.
She's horrified. She's not Bruce Willising her way through this movie. She's very upset at everything that's happening. And so when she has to put the dress back on, and yes, technically she could probably have found some sweats. I think that it wouldn't have been, it is the same story. She's trapped and she doesn't want it anymore. And she's forced to do it again. And so the dress is symbolic of that.
But you also, sorry, just chiming in, it's Matt here again. Hi, in case you can't tell. You also had a personal story about after a marathon. That was the other thing I was.
Okay. It was a half marathon. It was a half marathon.
I think I know where this story's going.
Well,
Gross.
no, I really liked when we saw Ready or Not, Here I Come. When she puts the dress back on, she starts to say, okay, to herself. I've done literally that.
Yeah.
I ran the Brooklyn half,
Mhm.
God, like 6-7 years ago now. And it hurt at the end. And my family had decided to visit that weekend, not because of the half marathon, but because they got tickets to see Misty Copeland. And they were like, perfect, we'll do that. And so the plan had been to like meet me in Coney Island, get into a car, go back to Queens, let me shower, and then we'll go out later. But the cars were too crazy and everything was crowded. And so my mom was like, hey, we got to go right into Manhattan. I packed a little sundress I found in your room. That's it. And I was like, sure. And we get in a car. We go to, I think somewhere in Chelsea, to this brunch space. And I was like, I guess I'll go change. And I get into this basement bathroom and my body is starting to get very sore. I was, I'm not like a tip-top athlete, so it's not nothing for me to run a half marathon. And I'm in the basement and I pull the little dress out of the backpack and I still have my running shoes. I'm sweaty. I'm like in pain and I'm like changing. I'm pulling like my clothes off. I'm sweaty and sticky and I'm putting the dress on and I was saying, okay, you can do this. And so when she did that in the movie, I was like, yes, that's real. That's a real moment. I bet she ad-libbed that. I'm sure it wasn't in the script for her to say that. She was just saying, I have to do it. I have to fucking do it. I have to put this on and I have to do it. So
okay.
That's where I stand.
I appreciate you jumping in, and it's amazing that we can have like revolving guests into the podcast now.
Sorry.
We should do that from now on.
Sometimes it's so hard for me in the other room when you guys are talking to not be like, wait a second. But that would be unprofessional.
The analogy that the story that you mentioned, great story, by the way, about having to put on the sundress to go see Misty Copeland.
I looked awful for Misty.
Oh, I'm sure she noticed. But the thing that I would think about then is like in the narrative logic of the movie is that imagine that Grace has run a marathon and gotten really sweaty and been taken to hospital and then suddenly gets told that she needs to run another marathon and puts back on the original marathon clothes as opposed to putting on a new sundress or something like that, right? And that's where her putting on the dress from the night before, covered in blood, that is like sticky, icky, and also not practical for any scenario other than the fact that that's what you were wearing at the time.
Well, I think
is like where the movie loses me. Because again, I think in the first movie, it is a beautiful symbol of her journey, and it turns into something really, really cool by the end of it. Because it's like, this is what she started the movie in. That makes sense. She's at a wedding. It's her wedding. It's beautiful. And it's going to turn into this blood-soaked mess that she has to tear up and put on like sneakers on at the end. But that is the new her. And
so you think this all would have been more effective if she was in like hospital sweats?
I think what I would have liked is to have a different journey. Whereas when she puts on that original dress, I'm going, well, this is purely symbolic because we're just trying to remind people of what the story was in the first one.
Tag me in.
And I'm like, and I'm not there for it.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Shahir. Hi, it's Matt again.
Yeah.
I think the fact that she puts it on is entirely symbolic. I think, especially after the moment that
symbolic, but not practical.
No, but it's important for the character.
Oh, do we want to talk about women's practicality
Right.
in costumes?
Look,
Because I feel
I-
like there's a few instances
hold on.
where
I love that. This is like the WWE right
let
now,
me-
which is like you guys are tag teaming in, and I'm just like,
Yeah, no,
I'm going back.
Let me continue this. Let me.
I'm spinning you guys both around.
Okay, we're losing the thread. My point is, it is symbolic for Grace's character, but like it is also actively psychologically important to her. From what Jamie described from the first movie, that when she looks in the mirror and kind of like realizes the transformation, I think that there is a certain power that comes with even wearing that garment, even though it is fucking covered in blood and like crazy red. Like, I think in order for her to survive this, she's like, nope, this is who I have to be again. And that is a direct representation of that specific. Jamie's walking back.
Tag. Also, they have just gotten away from an active shooter, and like, yes, she could have taken the time to find new clothing, but that would have been boring and kind of lame.
All I'm suggesting here is that, like you with the kid coming out with the two guns, it's like a moment where you're going, this is the movie talking to me, not the characters doing what seems like they would probably do in the scenario.
I just feel like it is something that she would do in the scenario, especially the character that like that she's set up to be.
But just to be clear, you're suggesting that the character sees that dress as symbolic and therefore would put it on in order to regain power in the
psychologically it would inspire
while
and or give
under
her strength.
duress,
Sure.
while having someone explode
Yep.
in front of her,
Yep.
while
Yes.
being at a hospital, while being
Yes.
all of that stuff. Okay.
I think she's in a hospital gown. She's not okay in the hospital gown. She's feeling vulnerable in the hospital gown. She gets the first thing that's in front of her. Now, sure, we could talk about the logistics of another costume, but the costume's a really conscious choice.
It's also a wedding dress. It's a wedding gown, which is not, as you can attest, not an easy thing to put on, right?
But she modifies it by the end of the first movie.
But even then, is it
I don't actually technically know what her dress does and doesn't do.
Now the pets are in here.
All of the animals
Everyone's
are
in here now.
Everyone's
It's getting
tagging in on me,
distracted.
and I'm
no,
not
I think
letting go.
Zoe and Lazo are trying to help you.
Yeah.
She here. I'll also die on this hill. So if you want to keep yelling, we can. But I feel like I should
Let's
let
move
you
on.
guys go.
Let's keep going. Let's get the pets out of here. Thank you, Jamie, for coming in.
Thanks, Jamie.
Yay. Zozo. Get out. Okay. Well, that was fun.
That was fun. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't buy it.
That's
like I was in that moment. I was going, okay, all right, here we go.
I think the interesting point here and where we can sort of come to is, I think we can agree on the mileage of this movie will vary based on the person watching it. I think that Ready or Not 1 is a special kind of film that transcends its own genre. And I think Ready or Not 2, Here I Come is more of the same, but it can't transcend the genre because it just was unable to.
Yeah, it doesn't have, in my opinion, anything that really elevates it to the point where I'm going, again, if you haven't watched either of these two, I would just say just watch the first one and be done with that.
But I think
kind of like Jerry Seinfeld go, I think you're going to get a lesser experience if you watch the second.
I truly don't think that anything in the second one poisons the well of the first one. It's just more of a thing you like. But that's
I guess maybe my point is that it's more of a thing, but it's also less of a thing.
No,
you know what I mean?
It's literally more of a thing you like.
It is less than the first one, and like significantly less than. I think to suggest to anyone that the first one is not far superior in every single way.
I haven't said that it's not better.
But
I think
you know what I'm saying. And then the second one is like,
but there's nothing
exists.
wrong with going back to a world that you really enjoy, even if one of the special things about that world was a really cool twist and surprise that you already know.
Yeah.
I don't think that every sequel, in order for it to be enjoyable or for you to have a wonderful time, has to be better than the original.
So here, this is maybe where we sometimes get hung up on this, is that I don't disagree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to talk to our audience here and say, why is it that I don't think this is really worth your time? Is that it is?
And I'm trying to say why I think it is worth their time. We're doing the same thing.
Right. Okay.
This is a podcast. We've been doing it for a while.
What I'm saying is like if you really love Ready or Not and you just wanted to see more of it, then this is there. Here it is.
That's what I'm saying.
But if I am talking as a person who reviews and discusses film and being like, hey, this is what this film is, I would say this is like a lesser experience.
But I'm also we've sort of said the same things, I think, but then there's the value prop of what that means for a viewer, right? Like I too have levied complaints about this movie. I also don't think it makes it not worth watching if you liked the first one. You do, which is fine. But I think that's where the interplay of like differing opinions about watching a film and why someone might do so comes in here. It's not that, well, you're trying to speak to the audience and do an objective review. I'm doing an objective review as well. It's just that in my specific opinion, the things, the bad things about this movie don't outweigh its ability to like exist or have someone enjoy it.
Right.
Which is, again, is all fine.
Yeah.
But I don't like the inference that, well, because you're calling out the things that you don't like, your specific take is more academic or review focused.
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay,
what
I just want to make sure. Yeah.
What I'm saying is that to our audience, the first one is all you need to do here. Like you don't.
Your opinion is that the first one is all you need to do here.
Yeah, and if
I'm saying to our audience, this one is worth your time.
Yeah. Okay, then that's what it is. Yeah,
but that's why they come here, right?
Yeah,
like that is why, like we obviously should not agree on everything because that would be boring.
Yeah.
There is, but and I'll even back it up more to your point. I do think that the mileage of this film will vary depending on the reasoning or the methodology of why you loved the first one or why you love action horror comedies. There's no question. But I would never say that this movie isn't worth the shot for someone to watch.
Right. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I liked talking about this movie. I think that there are like, I'm curious to go see is it called They Will Kill Me?
Yeah, They Will Kill You.
Or They Will Kill You.
Yeah. Which I actually heard really good things about.
Yeah, I would like to go see it, especially sort of like right after this one, because it's a similar premise, but obviously different characters, different world, you know. And I'm curious at another director, or in this case, this movie has a team of directors, but like, let's look at the Dante's Peak to this Inferno or whatever, right? Like I don't know. I
mean, the one thing that I think about Ready or Not that I do think is interesting, but again, more so in the first one, is this sort of fairly unveiled, idea that generational wealth is really harmful to people.
Sure.
And like in previous iterations of the kind of horror mythos of people like trying to kill one person, it's varied between cults and even corporations or what have you, but this is a very pointed of our time. It is about generational wealth, people who have like insulated themselves from the outside world, and what's sort of very interesting here is that Grace is very much outside of that world and being thrust into it. And the sort of proposition of that first movie is that you can choose to become part of that world if you sell your soul. And that is what that world is really about. And in this one, there's a kind of interesting idea at the top of the film, and Elijah Wood kind of iterates this as well. I think, the idea when David Cronenberg's character is on the couch and says, or, on his sofa or whatever it is, and says, accept the ceasefire. And and immediately watches the news and sees that this war is stopped because of a ceasefire. Elijah Wood comes in and says, "We have, whoever controls this ring controls everything."
Mm-hmm.
And there is a sort of interesting play at the end of it about like possibly we could do good with this power, or that sort of thing. But it's not the same kind of like dynamic tension at play.
Sure.
But just to one point, I think there's a magical moment that happens at the very, 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 very end of this movie.
Is it that they save the goat?
It's that they come in and say kneel, and the goat kneels.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
And I was like, that's
pretty dope.
In a movie where I've been looking for a magical moment, this little thing that happens in the back, I was like,
it was great. It was in a wide shot.
Yeah.
It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
No, I and this goes back to the plate spinning of the narrative structure. This will sort of be my final point, I guess, that I really appreciate in this movie. So early on, one of the families, I believe the character's name is Olivia. It's not sorry, the actress's name is Olivia Chang and is Wan Chen Zhao. Basically, she goes to her like, wait, no, I don't have to kill you. You can marry my son and then you're in it and whatever. And there's a thing about, but then I'd fucking lose my soul. Like I'd have to be like you and I don't want to be like you.
Yeah.
And so the way that Grace sees that is it's another form of being trapped.
Yeah.
After the murder of Sarah Michelle Gellar's Ursula by her brother Titus, when Titus like, there's no rules about murdering family.
Yeah.
That gives her the idea to then sort of basically rules lawyer the entire thing and make that an actual out as well. And I really liked like how the character came to that. It's very clear, but not sort of totally upfront as to why or when. And like, it is nowhere near the actual twist of LaBelle being really the devil and everything's real, the first one. But I really did appreciate that as the moment. And because then she's able to get the thing, and then the first thing she does is abdicate the power of it because she knows that they're going to rip each other apart, and it's like she's able to take the whole thing down and doing essentially what no one in the history of this deal has ever done, which is giving it up.
Yeah,
and which
as
says,
I said, like the movie kind of got to a place by the end of it where I was like, this is okay. I like this, but I felt the journey there wasn't like that compelling. And that's kind of where I landed on this. But if you want to see more of Ready or Not, there is more of Ready or Not. If you want to buy NBA 2K26, there it is.
Lots of people do. This has been the only podcast about Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. Shahir, when you are not screaming for barnyard animals to get on their knees, where can folks find you?
You can find all of my fetishes at my website, suvanova.com. That's SUVANOVA.com. Matt, when you are outmaneuvering the devil, where can people find you?
You can find me running over at my website, Extra History and Extra Credits. I believe by the time this comes out, we'll have our Magic the Gathering Universes Beyond episode out where we talk about how it's probably damaging the entire Magic brand, and for short-term gains, they're doing some long-term damage. And over on History, I believe we're going to have I believe it's our third in our series of London After Dark, which is essentially about the Penny Dreadfuls, specifically things like Sweeney Todd and Varney the Vampire and that sort of thing, and how it actually boosted literacy rates across London because young boys who weren't interested in reading all of a sudden wanted to read a bunch. And how reading is one of the, one of the lines you can track for academic success is how much a child reads. And it's a really cool thing that, like, essentially at certain ages, it almost, specifically there's exceptions, of course, but it almost doesn't matter what a kid is reading so long as they are reading.
I've got two specific interesting examples of this. One is that my son reads like vociferously right now, but primarily focuses on manga. And it's like, and I was like, well, look, whatever.
And there's a reason libraries stock that now is because it actually does help.
And when I mean vociferously, I mean like we will go to the library, he will pick 17 books, maybe 20.
One Piece has 9,000 books.
And he will read them. He will be done with them by the time we get home, like in the car. The second is, I think this happened to me because I started reading because I had older siblings that were reading bigger books. So I started reading bigger books when I was younger. And in terms of like reading things that it doesn't matter what you're reading, I was reading Virginia Andrews' Flowers in the Attic.
Nice.
At the age of 8 or 9. And that was my big books when I was reading those. But I reread those recently and I was like, man, would I let my son read this? I don't know. But it was like, it's fun. Read as much as you can.
Reading is fundamental. Next week, we won't be reading. We'll be watching a movie and then talking about it. I don't know what
in
movie.
this day and age, watching a movie is apparently as hard as reading a book for some people.
Fuck. We'll figure out what we're doing. We'll put it on the socials. Email us in onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. What would you like us to watch? We can go do that now because we're free of our top 10 list.
Oh, man, that was really weighing you down, wasn't it?
It was. We could do whatever. What do we want to do?
Ready or Not Part 3.
I don't need it. Let's see. What?
Say it.
I'm going to go see the Super Mario Galaxy movie.
My son is going to see it tomorrow with a bunch of friends.
Okay.
I'm not going to see it. I don't
think there's going to be something to talk about. If there is, maybe I'll bring it up, but I don't think there's going to be anything to talk. I mean, we did the first one, but I feel like it's going to be like, I don't know.
More of the first one?
More of the first one. But like, but here's the thing. I think
that's worth it.
Yeah, I think it's worth seeing. Yeah. I don't know if it's worth talking about. I think this discussion, because Ready or Not, I'm going to make a controversial statement. Yeah. I think Ready or Not is better than the Super Mario Brothers movie. And I think it has a lot more to offer, just like I imagine Ready or Not 2, Here I Come has more to offer than Super Mario Galaxy movie. But I won't know until I see it. Maybe it's going to trick me. Yeah. Maybe it'll be the deepest thing in the since the Pacific Ocean.
I have not watched the trailer, but I saw review headlines this week, and the consensus was culture as we know it is about to die.
Oh no!
so take that with what you want.
Well, I don't know. We'll figure something out.
Yeah, we'll find movie. Email us in. I have actually deleted some social media this week, so I'm not going to be as responsive as I once was on there. Not that there's only a handful of people reach out to me there, but we're still here. Like Jacob emailed us at the beginning. We're not going anywhere.
Maybe we do. They will kill you. No, he doesn't want to do it. Okay, we'll find something else.
I'm interested to see that for myself. Okay, I think there are other movies we could do.
Okay, we'll figure it out. All right, until next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.